Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Bills Roundtable, live Mondays and Thursdays. On Monday, I inadvertently had this dual streaming on my actual channel. I did it again, this time on purpose, because I really think that this is a good way to funnel you people over to the actual Bills Roundtable channel. It's streaming on the Bills Roundtable channel. It's streaming on mine, guys. There's a link pinned at the top of the live chat. I highly recommend you go subscribe to that channel because after the bye week, going into Carolina Panthers week, that's where the show is going to be exclusively. Let's get us over to 1,000 subscribers. I think that we can get it done, right? The doldrums of the first loss of the season, I think, has dissipated, at least from my perspective. Z-Bot, how you doing today, man? How you feeling about this team? Feeling more optimistic? Talk to us.
Yeah, I'm somewhat over the loss. I think that is how it typically goes. You hit usually Tuesday is where I'm starting to get over it, right? Monday's still an absolute dread, just being Monday in and of itself. But then you factor the loss in, so it always sucks. Around late Tuesday, I start to move on. You start to put things into perspective, right? 4-1. You still tie for the best division in the sport. You know, the Bills did a multitude of things very badly in that football game. Still had a chance to win it around the 2-minute warning. So it's hard to remain negative, but the narrative can go one way or the other this upcoming weekend. It really can. I mean, this is a more pivotal game than I think meets the eye, just because the difference at this stage of the year between a win and a loss in this game is just so massive because, as we talked about last week, the Patriots are favored against the Saints this upcoming weekend. The Bills find a way to drop it to Atlanta in the season, which looked like you had in somewhat of the bag, the regular season, that is, well, I don't know, 5 days ago. You're looking at it a little bit differently. Luckily for us Bills fans, one key stat to keep in mind going into this one, Josh Allen, 24-8 in his career following a loss, 750%. So if you're looking at batting average, 0.750 out of 1,000. Not bad. So the odds are in our favor, Dan. Hopefully we cash in.
So maybe barring that dome appearance last year in Houston, for the most part, he's a good dome quarterback too, right? So hopefully
that's right. I mean, and think about how much of an anomaly that was last year, losing the back-to-back, where it just felt like, and then what happened after that? They lost one game and they scored 40-plus points in it. So hopefully we get some of the same.
Yeah, dude, you know what, man? Have to bounce back. Kev, what's going on with you, man? How you doing?
Doing well. I think maybe it's a drought coping mechanism, but I was over it pretty quickly, just telling myself we have Josh Allen. Like, I mean, it's the same thing Ravens fans tell themselves. Like, they could be 1-5 pretty easily. And is it over for them? I don't think it's over for them. I really don't think it's over. They could easily be a wild card team. Easily. And that's not come back and grab Aaron Rodgers away. Like, I just don't. It's just not over for that. It's not over for them. And in our case, the Bills are 4-1. They didn't play good ball. They had awful penalties, awful turnovers at Josh on that back-to-back loss thing. Like, he doesn't do that often, just like he doesn't turn the ball over in the red zone ever anymore. So there's a or 3 points at the half, like, you name it. Or, you know, Sean Hockey, the only guy that really penalizes the Bills heavily. Like, the last time they were penalized this month was Sean Hockey. So, like, ultimately, there's things that I don't expect to be consistent. If Josh Allen starts being a turnover machine in the red zone this week, all right, I guess we have to have a conversation on next shows. But for me, I'm not nervous. The team's good. January's what matters. That's what matters in the wins, and it matters in the losses too. We talk about the downs all the time. One thing I wanted to bring up is we talk about the negatives all the time in a W. Okay, we can talk about some positives in a loss too. So we make sure to really harp on the Bills won, but there's XYZ, ABC. In a win, we do that all the time. In a loss, there's things you can take out positively from that are now on film that you can now correct. It's early October football. Like, this is not, this is what they give us. They give us the banner all the time for quarter one banners. All the other fan bases, the Chiefs specifically, love to give us the September or the October banner. I mean, it ultimately doesn't really matter long term. They do need to make sure they shore up the division, and that doesn't show up in December. But right now, guys, I'm feeling pretty good, ready to talk some Atlanta Falcons. And there's definitely some winnable matchups in this game. They're a very fast blitzing team, and to me, I don't know how they're going to stop the run in this game. That's my early prediction. So let's get into it.
No. And by the way, thank you for the recommendation on that statistics website, Kev.
Oh, FTN.
I am obsessed with that. Z-Bot. And so have you ever heard of FTN Fantasy?
I have now.
Dude.
DVOA. It's so
Dude.
DVOA merged with FTN, which was a traditionally like a fantasy based site of daily and they merged together with Aaron Schatz and DVOA to form like a mega. And so now you get the fantasy stuff, but you also get the football analytics, and it's reasonably priced. So we could even probably have Aaron on here sometime, Dan, and he'll talk. And he loves to come on and talk. He used to come on my show all the time. But
dude,
all the DVOA metrics are great for player DVOA is awesome.
Yeah. So Zbot, so like I was literally like looking through it and really just putting top of mind some of the key narratives surrounding like this Buffalo Bills team. And quite frankly, I was shocked by a lot of things. Number one, like we're number one in the NFL for pressure percentage, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. All right.
AJ Epinesa is like 2 in the league.
Yeah. He's second in the league. We're 4th overall in total pressures. And you would say, oh, well, like we're not getting to the quarterback. Like we're not sacking them. Like we're still top 10 in sack percentage too, which is even crazier at the end of the day. So the defensive line is doing that well, right? As far as like secondary, like that's been like the big thing, like for all Bills fans being like, oh, it's a secondary. Like they're absolutely awful. And you reflect and like you look at like how much hype the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is getting. Like the Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars are literally 8 and 9. Like when you look at DVOA, like defensively. So it's painting a picture where like, I'm like, is it really as bad as we think? Is it really as bad as we think? Which is insane.
I'll tell you this, for starters on that pressure number, I believe it. I mean, they were on Drake May. They couldn't get him down.
Yeah.
They were on Tua. He was getting the ball out of his hand. I mean, he would throw the ball an inch in front of him, and he did it 35 times. So there's only so much you can do there. I believe that. And I also believe the Buffalo Bills defense was good on Sunday. The way my main takeaway from that football game when I went back and rewatched it was that Buffalo Bills defense in the first half was as underrated as you could possibly imagine. Everybody naturally pins everything on the defense anymore. And to some extent, I get it, because in the big collapses for this team, that seems to be where the arrows should be pointed. And through the first month here, you have the Bills offense averaging 30 plus points, and you've had the Bills defense allow the Ravens to do what they did. And there's been moments throughout the season that leave you scratching your head, right? But if you watch that first half, the Bills, they score 3 points despite getting in Patriots territory 3 out of their 5 drives. The Patriots starting field position in that game was unbelievable. The Bills fumble with Dawson Knox end around there, immediately force a fumble. Then Keon Coleman fumbles on their own 10. You're thinking that's a guaranteed touchdown. And the Bills, they hold them to -1 yards on that series, force a field goal. The Patriots had 13 points, Dan, in the fourth quarter. In 2025, where the starting field position for some teams is around the 40-yard line on average, 13 points going into the fourth quarter is about as good as you're going to get in terms of a bar that you're going to hold another team to, especially a team that's not bad. Like Drake May on the rise, Stephon Diggs, when he has games like that, I mean, he looked as good as he did in his Minnesota Buffalo days the other night. Like, sometimes it just happens. He had a great night. So despite all of that, this Bills defense, I thought, really had a lot to build on the other evening. I know, and this is the problem, right? Everybody looks at what went wrong, but they did stop Drake May on that final drive. He just made an unbelievable play. They stopped him after Josh Allen's interception. Stephon Diggs toe touch on the sideline. Unbelievable play. So sometimes you just got to tip your cap. But to the points you're making there about the D, and maybe we're overlooking it a little bit, go back and watch that game against New England. Far more positive than negative on the defensive side of things. And I think that that's certainly, you mentioned earlier, things to build on, right? And things to kind of take away from a loss, or Kevin, you mentioned it, being able to take positives away from a loss like we take away negatives from a win. We've been doing that all month. So in my opinion, the positive to take away from that football game was the defense had their best performance outside of a Jets game where everybody's going to dominate against that offense.
It's better. It's better than we think as well.
And it's going to get better. How many players are you even at just 1 week? Let's just talk about today. Like Ed Oliver's back. So that's already an upgrade over Zion Logue, who can't be called up anymore. And he put some bad film out there. To Z-Bot's point, he played good against the Jets. Who doesn't? Zion Logue has been bad since. He's had some bad reps. The difference between a low-end guy who's not even rosterable, no, sorry, Zion Logue, I'm just going off your film, man, compared to Ed Oliver is humongous. Like,
yeah.
you're talking about one of the best and coming off one of the best performances by that guy. Top 10 in the league, top 15. We can argue about where Ed Oliver is on the DT rankings. To Zion Logue, that alone is a humongous difference in snap count and how the Bills will play against a Bijan Robinson, against a team, to me, that can't run the ball particularly good with Bijan Robinson. So that's like one of the biggest things. And your analytics, Dan, if you're able to pull them, will show you is that they're like 23rd or 24th in run block win rate. They can't run block at all. They can't run the ball specifically very good. Their EPA is poor running the ball. It doesn't make any sense with Bijan. That's why they're throwing to him a lot. So ultimately, that's their drive. Their drive starters are short passes, and they're expecting Bijan out in space. They can't run the ball great. So to me, it's a matter of you're getting Ed Oliver back. The D-line is playing super good. I know people don't want to hear it. The Bills sunk assets into it, and they want TJ Sanders to have 6 sacks. But the D-line is playing really good. Walker has been a hit from day one. Your 4th-round pick to do what he's doing game 5 is remarkable. That is a success story. Hopefully it doesn't bite me, but it's been a success story right now. Next to what EJ Epinesa has been able to do as the third DN, next to the Bosa signing for the most part being a great signing, and Greg Rousseau doing way more than people ever think he does. And Ed Oliver coming out, and that's not in Jones as well, who also had him dead to rights, to Z-Bot's point, where they stopped Drake May. What an interior pass rush. That's what we've been asking for. That should have maybe got you the football back, at least gone to overtime probably. That's how good of a pass rush that was, and Drake May made a Josh Allen play, a risky play still. I'll still go down swinging on that play. If covered properly by the flat linebacker, it could have been an interception. But either way, Drake May made the play. So did Daquan Jones, though. So the D-line has played super good. We need the coverage behind it a little bit. It hasn't been as poor, to your point, Dan, as we think, but it's been poor enough to where some quarterbacks have been able to make them pay in that deep honey hole that Drake May was able to throw. That deep honey hole. We now know that going into game 2. We won't bait him with that like we will probably bait Michael Penix.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, since we're on defense right now, and so I've been unpacking Michael Penix, and wow, what a story. Like, you don't know what Michael Penix is or what the Atlanta Falcons are at any given week, right? Like, they can go out there and be competitive with a Brian Flores defense, or they can get blown out by the Carolina Panthers. The one thing that I find interesting is that, like, when you're talking about a guy that has like a 16% completion percentage, 20 yards downfield, all right, he is horrible. He is horrible with deep passes downfield. He's even bad past 9 yards from the line of scrimmage. His completion percentage is at about 48%. So the thing is that he's not the kind of quarterback that I think is going to be able to like roll right or roll left in his case and be able to throw an absolute dime 15 yards downfield with a toe tap from Drake London or anything like that on Monday, excuse me. So I'm kind of curious how Buffalo ends up sort of attacking this, because I had no idea that their run blocking scheme was as bad as Kevin just suggested. So like now I'm asking, like, is this a game where like we say screw the too high safety shell? It's not like, what's the point of taking away the big play? Because Michael Penix is probably not going to test it. And if he does test it, statistically, he's not very good at it. I say we just create as much traffic up front as humanly possible. We commit to stopping the run. We commit to stopping those little, like short passes, like right in the interior, and make Michael Penix prove something that he hasn't proven to do in the league already. Thoughts on the defensive strategy?
Well, I would agree with that, because Drake London, their best receiver, has only had one 100-plus yard game. He's coming off of that against the Commanders, where they just rolled that defense. Bijan Robinson is the guy you look at to be the game breaker in this one. And they're going to want to do it through the pass. And unfortunately for the Bills, they've had a really tough time stopping the short passes, especially to running back. Screen game and dumps off to the left or right side of the field have really been a kryptonite for this team for a long time. It's always seemed to be a problem for this Bills defense. I don't know why. It always feels like well-crafted screens and short passing plays seem to be the trick. I would imagine that would be the Atlanta Falcons strategy going into this one. The other thing too with Bijan Robinson, I know they don't run the ball amazingly, especially based on how good of a running back he is. The offensive line isn't great, but he's one of the best running backs in the NFL at getting yards after contact. He's averaging over 4 yards per carry after contact. And we know one of the biggest struggles for the Bills up until this point defensively has been tackling. I mean, that's really been noticeable. If there's one thing you can certainly pinpoint, regardless of a good or bad performance, it would be the tackling. So that's the one thing I look at, Dan, is I feel like in this game, you might want to sell out on stopping things within the line of scrimmage or around it. They did that against the Jets. And I think Penix at this point probably has a higher ceiling. I think that's fair to say than Justin Fields. I think this offense in general, of course, is more potent than the New York Jets. But in that game, the Bills had no respect for the Jets passing game. And you saw what they did to both the run game in that game and the pass game. I feel like you got to roll with that a little bit here. You got to kind of test Michael Penix, who's essentially still a rookie, right? This is his first year as the full-time starter through the duration of a season. So that's kind of where I'm looking at here. I'm looking at Sean McDermott using this defense to put the pressure on Michael Penix, keep things around the line of scrimmage, and to do what you said. And that's basically kind of give up the air yards down the field in pursuit of doing what I just said, because I think you're going to be able to do that against Penix.
Single high, man. Just go on ahead and put Cole Bishop in there, like right in the box, and just let him do his thing. Thoughts, Kev?
Couple things I wanted to just quickly address. The Bills' average starting position is their 34th. It's bottom 3 or 4 in the league. So I think that will progress to the mean. I don't think it'll sit down there the entire season. So I think there's definitely some areas that I expect to only be on the upward swing. 9th in sacks for the Bills. I expect that to go up. And one thing that I've been studying is the Falcons' offensive line. They're not getting any push in the run game. Actually, the left side, their left tackle actually I've seen him analytically graded out as a 0 in run, which is shocking. I've never really seen. I mean, Jake Matthews is a guy. He's been good for a long time. He's a 0 on the run right now. So that's really what's been an issue for them offensively. The rest of the line, their left guard's been really good. In Matthew Bergeron, a guy that I think even we were talking about here a couple of years ago in the draft that could have been a guard fit, and that was the year we took Torrance, I believe. But either way, other than that, they don't have a lot going on in the run game. The right side is pretty weak. It's all below average between Chris Lindstrom and Elijah Wilkinson. So there's definitely some spots where they're going to key in on and blitz them heavily. The Bills are like the 8th blitzing team in the league right now. I would never have guessed that going into this game. I thought everyone thinks we play a passive cover 2, 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. Those have been blitzing a lot, and it got Drake May into some pressure and some off-script scenarios that sometimes, a lot of the time, the Bills will win. That May made some plays, some coverage lapses, and some wins went May's way. But that's going to work for the most part against most quarterbacks that aren't Patrick Mahomes and a couple of others that the Bills have faced this year, like Lamar Jackson. Early on, Lamar Jackson, when he was still playing at a pretty high level. But you're getting right now, and Michael Penix, who's going to face a lot of single high. He's going to face a lot of pressure with Ed Oliver back. There's winnable matchups across it, and it's going to be a DN game, guys. The Bills need Greg Rousseau, and the Bills need Joey Bosa and AJ Epinesa to continue to win, because this is a winnable tackles game. So I'm thinking Michael Penix needs to get rid of the ball in Tua-like speed. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. And the Bills are 9th in the league in sacks. Would you guess that? Like, we always assume they just don't get home.
I know.
They've been getting home, and it could have been way worse if it wasn't for Drake May and some of his plays. They'd probably be top 6, top 5 right now if May hadn't made some of those plays. And that's why the pressure numbers, everyone's like, well, they're just pressures. Yeah, it took ridiculous plays in order to beat it. And May made them, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen every week. It is not going to be 3 honey hole shots and a crazy flip, Josh Allen flip on the right sideline with the game on the line. You're not going to have that week in and week out. The pressure rate's going to get home, and you're going to get a 4 to 6 sack game. And it's going to happen. The Bills have a winnable matchup on the edge, Dan. I expect them to exploit it. And the Falcons blitz on the other side, we'll get into that soon. They blitz way too much for me, where Josh Allen should have some very winnable, not only in the run and in the pass, but as far as the Bills defense goes, their D-line is the key of this game. They pass block pretty well, but I think that they're going to be able to do some run blitzes to make Michael Penix uncomfortable and have to get the ball out of his hand and put some stress on not just being able to run Bijan. This is a completely different game than, say, when you play Derrick Henry and the running game of the Baltimore Ravens. So there's a lot of winnable matchups in this specific game. I just don't love the way they're run blocking, and I think you need to run the ball well to beat the Bills, or last week have a ridiculous performance by the quarterback. that's not going to be repeatable.
No. I do think that this is going to be the defensive line's biggest test, though, because right now Michael Penix is the third least sacked quarterback in the NFL. Technically the second, say that you want to count Mac Jones's like few games or handful of games. But like he's only been sacked 7 times and he's only been pressured 33 times already. So I kind of wonder if this is going to be a game where the Buffalo Bills continue to dial up those blitz packages.
Let me pull his release time too to see what the reasoning for their low sack rate is. They pass blocking fairly well.
2.7.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 2.7. It wasn't crazy or anything. It wasn't 2 numbers. So, but like with Wilkerson, like he's probably going to be the weak link in pass pro, right? So that could be a Bosa day. Maybe he goes on ahead and he finally gets to that guy. I don't know. Z, thoughts on the defensive line? We dialing up some blitz packages. Like, let's get some sacks so we can, convert Bills Mafia into hopping on this defensive line train, because all aboard, people. Hop on while you can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping so, especially if Michael Penix hasn't faced that up until now, right? You're going to be giving him a look that maybe he hasn't seen yet, and I'm sure that's on the mind of Sean McDermott. And like I mentioned in that Jets game, I loved some of the blitz packages they designed in that one. There were a few in the Patriots game that were incredible. The one that stood out to me the most was on that 3rd and 7 off the Josh Allen interception, where Drake May's rolling to the right, makes that incredible throw, an even better catch from Stephon Diggs on the sideline there. Terrell Bernard, he's lined up over the center. He goes into coverage just to pivot back and go into the blitz. He fakes out the center perfectly. He's got a wide open lane to get after May, just wasn't able to get home. So they have been able to get after the quarterback in a variety of different and creative ways. I think the Bills might be able to do that again this upcoming week, especially if they really don't trust Michael Penix's ability to beat them through the air. And I think right now, has Michael Penix proved that he has the ability to do that? I don't think so. I think you're more fearful of the impact Bijan Robinson has in this game. I mean, not that the Falcons and the Jets are comparable. The Jets are easily the worst team in the NFL right now. But I think going into the Jets game, your biggest fear was Breece Hall carving you up, because he's done that in the past. That's what you were looking at in that one. The Bills were able to take that away, doing exactly what we're talking about here. I think it'll be a bit more difficult to do that against the Falcons, who are a better offense, but I still think the same principles apply. So, yeah, you'd love to see it. And with Ed Oliver back to, limited in practice, hopefully there's an opportunity to get him back as well. That would really change things, because the only time we've seen him was like the best performance of his career. So if you get him back in there, we can only really assume that it's going to be better. And based on what we've talked about here, the Bills' D front has been better than advertised, and that's without Ed Oliver for 4 of the 5 games. So it's an interesting situation, and I think that coming off of a loss here, the Bills are going to be dialed in on trying to do things that are conducive to making sure they secure this W going into the bye. I mean, I just think that they're locked in this week. So, yeah, I think that's going to be pivotal. I expect the Bills offense, and Kevin mentioned it last week, dome Josh Allen. I expect this offense to bounce back. That was as bad of a performance offensively last week as you're really going to see. And they still were on the precipice of winning that football game despite the 3 turnovers and really just sloppy play all around. So I expect that offense to get back towards that 30-point mark. And with that, I have to assume that the defense is going to be able to hold up their end of the bargain and keep them below that. So I think it's a good point you guys make. That seems to be the strategy going into this one. Get after Penix, keep things around the line of scrimmage. The Bills are only allowing 300 yards per game right now defensively. I mean, I know the point totals have been a bit higher than you'd like. It's around 23 points, right? But they have been good at containing teams. I think they'll be able to do it again this week. The only question is Bijan Robinson going to break 1 or 2 that you're not expecting? That's where things could get interesting. But hopefully that's the game plan this week. Get after Michael Penix. If they're able to accomplish that, it should be a good night for Buffalo on Monday.
And Dan, so before we transition, I was just going to say,
we haven't had a 300-yard passer either.
Yes, exactly. Not even close, right?
No, not even close. So that's encouraging. For many people, they're like, "Oh, the secondary sucks." Yeah, look, it's not that bad. Kev, what were you about to say?
Yeah, you're right. And May got the closest, and that was throwing the ball a lot. That was them really not being successful running either. That's about the upper end and how well he did play. Like, that is the upper echelon of what you can expect. And their passing defense is still second. Everyone keeps saying they haven't played anyone. Well, are the Patriots, if the Patriots aren't good, then I guess they haven't. So are the Patriots good or not? So if they're not good, then I guess they haven't played anyone. They played the Ravens at the top of their game. This isn't the same Ravens team that'll play this week that the Bills put them into this tailspin. Let's be honest, after that second half. Like, that's literally what happened. And then they face some injuries, etc. But to this game's point, one thing I want to just quickly bring up on the Falcons offense, they're negative 0.03 EPA per pass. That's 22nd in the league. Their pass rate over expected is negative 6%. That's worrisome. So there's definitely some data that shows like they may not even supposed to be the record that they are based on their offensive performance. The only thing they've been able to do is get into a manageable third down. They're second in the league, being third and 5.9 is their average. But right now they're 22nd in the league in a negative EPA, negative 0.1 on offense. The shocking part to me is that they're not running the ball specifically very well. So that's got to change, especially with a running back like Bijan Robinson. So those are some numbers to always remember when you're facing this Atlanta team. There's not a lot to love when it comes to their offense, in my opinion. They're Bijan away from being pretty bad, actually. And that's having Pitts and London.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do need to give a giant shout out to our proud partners and friends over at Picasso's Pizza. Guys, Picasso's Pizza is the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, hands down. They have 4 beautiful locations in the Western New York area. Say, for example, that you are not in Western New York, have no fear. You can experience the taste of Picasso's simply by going to their website, picassospizza.net, and hitting that nationwide button. Right there, they will deliver pizza to your front doorstep all across the continental United States. Works great for gifts. Sell it for some nostalgia. Say that you're missing the taste of home. If you are relocated from Western New York, you do not want to miss out on that. All right, now let's go ahead and transition over to offense, right? Like, what is the offensive game plan versus this Atlanta Falcons defense? Because on paper, like, this should be a top 5 unit, right? You have Jesse Bates, you have Xavier Watts, who a lot of Bills fans wanted as safety too, like 2 ball hawks at the safety position. I think AJ Terrell might be back. I haven't seen the injury report yet from Atlanta. I think it's trending that he will return. Not a big fan of Mike Hughes, and so I don't think that he's very good. You have Bowman has a tackling issue. He's a rookie. So that's something when they run out of nickel. So I'm super intrigued. Guys, by the way, as you're coming in, hit that thumbs up sign for me. All right? If there is 70 of you, 100 of you, there needs to be 100 like buttons hit. We want to propel this out to the YouTube algorithm so we can welcome more of a community. Also, do me a favor and go subscribe to the Bills Roundtable channel if you haven't already. That is pinned at the top of the chat right now. This show will exclusively be over there at the beginning of Bills Panthers week. You don't want to miss out on that. But Bills offense versus the Atlanta Falcons defense. How do you think we attack this? I'm going to start off with Z-Bot on this one.
I think it's a battle of really good pass blocking versus really good pressure rate right now. Who's going to win that battle in this football game could really go a long way to determining the outcome right now, because the Bills on offense have allowed the lowest pressure rate in the league. And when you're looking at the Falcons, they have really did a 180 compared to last year. They're top 10 right now in pressure rate themselves, getting after the quarterback. The thing that's interesting, if we're talking about numbers here, Josh Allen's been scrambling a lot more than I think we're used to through the first month of the season. Usually it seems like those legs are preserved for later on in the year. I know that wasn't the case early in his career, the first several seasons, but it has been the last few. But according to the advanced next-gen stats, Allen going into this upcoming game here, right, 20% of his dropbacks have resulted in some sort of scramble. I think you saw a lot of that going into, on Sunday Night Football, was why it was frustrating on that Allen interception where he had a path to run for a first down and he didn't take it. He was scrambling all game long. That's why I was going back and watching that interception, by the way. I cannot believe he threw that football. He had a full 4 seconds of a clean clean pocket. I mean, no one near him, plus a running lane and a dump off to Cook. And that's really where the game was lost. Points scored there. That was a 6-point swing. They get nothing there, and the Patriots go down and score themselves. So, or a 7-point swing. So that's a massive difference in a game that wound up finishing by 3 points. So the reason why I think the Bills have the advantage here is even though that the Falcons are able to get after the quarterback, you do have the ability for the Bills to stifle that. But you also have Josh Allen, one of the greatest dual threat quarterbacks of all time, one of the greatest rushing quarterbacks of all time. His ability to get out of those situations is uncanny, and he's been doing it more than even we would expect from a guy that throughout his career in totality has done this a good amount, scrambling. So that could be the difference here. That could be the ultimate separator between what they're able to do defensively and how the Bills are going to be able to beat it. And I'd also like to see the Bills get back to the basics. I thought that on Sunday Night Football, it felt to me like they were trying to fix things that weren't broken. And then you saw in the first half, the first drive of the second half, they came out and did exactly what they've been doing all season long. Throw, run, throw, run, throw. A nice out to Curtis Samuel, touchdown. Right. So that was the most efficient drive of the game that they had. And it didn't feel like they were continuously doing what was working, including targeting Dalton Kincaid, which we talked about on Monday. He only got 6 targets. So I think the opportunities are going to be there. And I think when you factor in the best asset for the Falcons defense, that's getting after the quarterback, you have maybe the best quarterback in the league at beating that. So I think it's advantage Buffalo and a good showdown there between offensive line and pass rush.
So the strange thing to me as well is that for some reason, for how effective that our run game has been for the majority of the season, like we're shockingly pretty low in play action.
Well, you know what? It was interesting about that, and I don't know if you guys made anything of this, but Collinsworth kind of pointed it out where they could be tipping their hand a little bit in terms of how they're lining up and what they're running and when they line up, right? When they're under center, it seems like it's almost a guaranteed run, and they aren't doing as much play action like you just said, Dan. And then when they're in the gun, it's primarily passing. So that would be nice to see, too, maybe mixing that up a little bit to kind of throw different looks at teams.
It's 19.5%, 23rd in the league for play action.
Oh, wow. It's bottom third.
Yeah. Crazy.
I think it's the effectiveness on play action. I think I tweeted the stats maybe a couple days ago. 0.34 EPA per play. They've used, I have a play action on 15% of the plays, just 48 plays being play action right now for the Bills offense. But 0.34 EPA per play, 5 touchdowns out of it, 8 yards per pass attempt, 77% completion percentage out of play action. I think they're using it in scenarios where they need it or they can use it late because it's super deadly. And as anything goes, the old adage in any sport and the usage goes up and the effectiveness sharply declines. So I think that it's truly being held to its chest right now when it comes to play action. That's one thing I always like to point out.
So what are your thoughts on attacking this defense, right? Should we pound the rock with some James Cook action?
I think we're back to running the ball this game, Dan.
Yeah, run the football. Although so I do like that size matchup right between Keon Coleman and Mike Hughes, though. So like we're talking about 6'4", 215 pounds versus 5'10", 180. I think that you could probably get Keon going a little bit.
As long as they don't do it on back-to-back plays for no reason down the sideline, I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Sparingly would be ideal.
Couple slot fades in a row, right?
As far as a 50-50 matchup, I think that's a good one. Shakir versus Bowman when they're in nickel. And so I like that too. Kev, thoughts on this defense and diagnosing it? What do you got?
Yeah, one place for me to kind of look at is Zach Harrison, and a couple of their defensive linemen to me are a little bit smaller. Zach Harrison, for instance, is 270. The way that this team runs the ball, I think that there's some very winnable matchups there running the ball in a duo situation. They're not very good in duo, and that's one place I think the Bills go back to basics, and it's going to be boring, and we're going to come on here on Tuesday or on Thursday, I guess, and talk next Thursday and talk about how boring it was. Because I think that there's some very winnable matchups with how good they are rushing the passer. I think they have some good pass rush metrics, especially with someone like Leonard Floyd, but let's exploit them in running the game. And there's definitely some winnable matchups with Hughes. We'll see how healthy Terrell is. Xavier Watts was a guy many Bills fans wanted at safety, who's been playing super well. Billy Bowman's a liability to me at this stage. I don't love their linebacking play. I think Divine Diablo's a good player, and then I don't love a lot of the other linebacking play there right now. There's the makings to get shoved in the running game. So I just want to make sure. I think that Brady will not make it too cute this time, as got called out by his head coach, and rightfully so. A lot of people did not like that Knox play. And the flea flicker, there are a couple of plays that don't make sense with how well the Bills offense has been playing. I don't think you get cute at all. There are some winnable matchups with your strong offensive line. Let's neutralize their pass rush. Let's run the ball right at them. Those defensive linemen, to me, are light in the hips. They're fast and athletic, but I think they're going to struggle with this duo running style of Aaron Kromer and the ability of James Cook. I think that you'll see some winnable matchups here. They don't have a Christian Barmore. They don't have one of the top flight defensive tackles, in my opinion.
So I'm kind of curious about this. How is the Buffalo Bills run game from 12-man personnel versus 11? I'm just kind of curious about that, because
they're better running in 11.
Okay. Well, that's good, because from what I've seen, it sounds like Atlanta's run defense is a hell of a lot better when they're in base.
Okay. Yep.
So then rather when they're in nickel. So that's encouraging. I think one of my biggest questions here is that we are about to be seeing the fifth most likely defense to run man coverage, 51.6% of the time. So they run a lot of man. Does that benefit the Buffalo Bills, or not so much in your eyes, as far as the passing game is concerned?
Josh Allen's great against man. Yeah, look at his numbers against the Patriots against man. I think he was 10 for 11. I had the stat somewhere, but I don't have it off the top of my head. But it's 85 or 90% completion percentage. I think his 2 touchdowns were against man. So he's dominant against me. Still is. He'll get God occasionally, but you can't run man against him. He'll run. Also, he was great against man. They'll get out of it at some point. They have to. But it'll turn into a variation of why that's a really great matchup for when the Bills always play the Jets in this case, or Detroit last year. You run too much man. You just run too much man. You can't do it. You can get them on a one-off. You can't run a game of man. I mean, it's a lethal combo. I think he was 10 for 12 in man last week.
And so we'll see who has the. And so we'll see
with Mike Hughes, the guy who got absolutely cooked by Gabe Davis in the playoffs for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Gabe Davis, man, Gabe Davis. His name has been starting to get thrown around. All right, some people are getting sick of this this Josh Palmer experiment. All right, they're like, just bring back good old Gabe, man. We'll see what's going on there. Z-Bot, any further thoughts on how to attack these bad boys?
I like the idea behind getting James Cook going more. That's conducive to winning football games for this team now. What they did on Sunday night just isn't. It felt like, once again, they were trying to fix things that weren't broken, and there were times where I didn't like what was being dialed up. I mentioned those 2 shot plays to Keon Coleman back-to-back. I didn't love that. I didn't love not continuing to feed Dalton Kincaid. And really, at the core of what their struggles were on Sunday was just not establishing the run game early and often like they have been doing. This is obviously the least production James Cook's had in any game this season. In every other game, he's been about as good of a running back as you can find in each and every game. So that really is the key to the modern, or the 2025 iteration of the Buffalo Bills. The key is to establish the run. I forget who made this point the other day. I was listening to something, but it was such a great point where the Buffalo Bills in years past, when they didn't have a run or a run game, and Josh Allen was playing more recklessly, it felt like the offense was able to score quickly after a Josh Allen turnover or whatever, right? Where they were airing the ball out and you were baking in a turnover for Josh Allen just based on the way things have been going week to week. You were baking that in, but you were fine with having it in the recipe because all the other ingredients were, trumping it. The play, of course, from Josh Allen is even better now, but it's a different style of offense where they're not really scoring in, 6-7 plays. This is more of a 10+ play drive offense now. And when they're behind the 8 ball, they're not really built like years past to score as quickly as they used to. So I'd like to see the run game get established again this upcoming week because it feels like that's what it's built around. And when they get away from that, I think they struggle to find their identity. Now, it hasn't happened often, but it did happen Sunday. The Bills scored 17 points in the second half of that football game. So if they just get in the end zone once on 5 of their drives in the first half, 3 in which got into New England territory, they're winning that game. And it felt like the reason why they weren't able to do so is because they got away from what works best. I think if you get back to that this upcoming week, I think just based on what we've seen, that means good things for the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, man. Well, you know what? So the injury report's been released. I think we need to have some conversations here. We have Matt Milano did not participate today. Good news. Sounds like he's not going to be an IR guy, though. He's not going to be an IR guy. Do we trust Shaq Thompson? Right? Like, do we trust Shaq Thompson filling in the shoes of Matt Milano?
Yes. Outside of the play that I keep referencing and I'm being mad about and saying that May got lucky on. Yes, I think you do. You got to know Diggs is right there. It's not like you're 40 yards downfield. Diggs is there on the flat, literally his responsibility. You could have changed the game there. But other than that, Shaq Thompson played pretty well. He's much better than Dorian Williams. Will the Bills coaching staff agree? They should agree on passing downs. Like, there should be no debate about it. In running downs, all right, whatever the Bills want to do. But in passing down, there's no debate about who's better in coverage. Shaq Thompson's actually one of the best coverage linebackers in the league in his limited snaps. Per metrics, per pick your poison. I think even PFF has him that high if you're one of the PFF people. So ultimately, like, he's really good in coverage, and that's what's shocking about the end of the game in the May play where he just thought he was sacked, I think. You can't do that.
Definitely.
You can't do that against it. Maybe the Bills have learned that, because next time, if that was Matt Milano, I'm still on my horse that ball's intercepted. Now, it wasn't, and it's unfortunate because he's always hurt. But Shaq Thompson is a good coverage linebacker. I expected a little more on that play where Daquan Jones did everything humanly possible. So did Drake May. I needed the last part of that was Diggs versus Shaq Thompson. That seems like a mismatch, but not necessarily in the part or the field that they were in. So I think I respect him in pass coverage. I think he'll be able to do enough in this game. And if they're worried about Bijan, maybe they will go with Dorian a little bit more. But Dorian in the flat against Bijan Robinson scares me to death. Maybe he'll be okay in the run, but that scares me to death on the pass end of that coin. So we'll see how the Bills counter in that scenario and what they're going to do to limit that. I would just put Taron Johnson on him straight up. That's how I would handle the scenario at this point. So we'll see how it all turns out. We don't even know that Dorian's ready to go even. So we'll see how that ends up looking out based on this report. But I think Sanders being out stinks. We'll get another day of Mathis in the game, but Ed Oliver being ready to go as he's tweeted or Instagrammed or whatever. I'm pretty excited to see this report get a little bit cleaner after the bye. Bills are in good shape after the bye, guys. And I think we're got to get through Atlanta, but we're pretty excited to be able to take a bye into Carolina because they will look different.
So I noticed Taylor Rapp is on the injury report, and of course Curtis Samuel. Surprise, surprise. All right. But like, one question I have, and maybe it was because like he was like my training camp sweetheart, bro. I wanted Jordan Hancock like activated every single week. Like, I know he suffered an injury toward the back half of training camp, but if Taylor Rapp can't go, I mean, dude, like, we're talking about a quarterback whose average depth of target is not going to go anywhere past 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Why not put our boy Jordan Hancock out there? Why not activate? Give him a damn jersey. All right. And let's see what we have in the young man. Because with Rapp, he's probably been one of the biggest liabilities we've had on this defense all season long. So I'm not sure. Like, why? Why hasn't Jordan Hancock been out there? I thought he looked good in camp. I understand Landon Jackson, but not Jordan Hancock. Z-Bot? Thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about Tyrell Shavers on the offense, where I was kind of hoping I'd see a little bit more utilization there, and we haven't. I mean, he's been getting on the field, but just there's nothing going to him. So I kind of feel that way on the offensive side of things, the way you feel about Jordan Hancock. But I do think the future is bright there, just because of his ability to go both ways. I think inevitably we wind up seeing him at some point. But the injury report here, just looking at it, a couple of things stand out. The one that stands out the most, of course, is Deion Dawkins, right? This has been the healthiest offensive line in the league. The Bills were lucky enough to return this offensive line completely from last year. They were the best offensive line in terms of protecting Josh Allen, least sacked quarterback in the league last year, and we know they're off to a killer start this year. But the reason why that's concerning is you've already had Spencer Brown miss a game. Now you have Deion Dawkins with this thumb injury. You haven't really seen injuries, knock on wood, affect the offensive side of things for Buffalo during Josh Allen's time here. The one area they cannot afford to lose guys is on that line because everything goes through it. Josh Allen's efficiency goes through it. And of course, the way that this team's built right now on the ground goes through this line. So that stands out. Hopefully it's nothing crazy serious. And like we mentioned, the bye coming around the corner, that's going to be pivotal to make sure not only guys that are out get back, but guys that are banged up are fully healthy heading into a stretch post-bye that is certainly more difficult than what it's been pre-bye here. Then the other thing that stood out to me in terms of injuries in Sean McDermott's press conference today, I try not to read into anything him and Bean say because they say a whole lot of words, but not a whole lot of substance, both of them.
It's word salads.
It is. And listen, that's what they pay the big bucks for. I think they're both really good at doing that. And I think McDermott, he's got to, you never know when McDermott is really happy or mad, which is probably a good thing. But when asked about Maxwell Hairston, he was flat out asked today during his presser, are we going to see him this season? And I just thought there was some apprehension there. And I had mentioned a couple weeks ago on the show that I don't know if we will. And that's one of the bigger question marks right now because we know that the complaints of the secondary have been loud. And this is your first round draft pick. And you want to see him out there at some point, especially because the secondary hasn't been great. I don't know what's going on there. And the demeanor from McDermott, once again, I try not to read into it too much, but I don't know quite what to make of it. None of the IR guys have been activated. That was announced today, even though they could be. Obviously, we're past the 4-week mark, going into the 6-week mark here. So I don't know what the plan is there, but I thought that was interesting because there of course needs to be a plan. I would imagine it exists. We don't know it, of course, but I can't help but wonder what that actually is.
So I'm just telling myself that they just don't want to activate the 21-day window since they have a whole week off after Monday.
Yeah.
100% right.
Say that on the opening press conference, like that following Wednesday before the Panthers, and he still doesn't do it, then I'll be like, all right, what's going on? Yeah, what's going on, man? Come on.
But even if he's activated, though, I would imagine, of course, at some point he's gonna be activated, right? That's a matter of time. What's the game plan though, in terms of getting him on the field, if at all? Like what does that look like? And that's where I'm interested.
They're not going to play him until he can split snaps with Trey White because he doesn't play teams, and nor do you want him coming off an injury playing special teams. So the reps he's going to get are the Dorian Strong reps. He needs to be able to go in against, I would think Carolina would have been a good place to give him 20 reps, 15 even. They disagree. They want him full health, and I do believe you'll see him off the designation or on the designation to return list right after the bye, on Wednesday after the bye. They give him a full 21 days, but you don't need to take it. That's the other thing that people are confused by. You can play him that same week. The Patriots did with Jelani Tavai. So you're allowed to play that player that day if you want. You could take him off the list technically on Saturday and play him Sunday if you wanted. But ultimately, they could just want to make sure they have a full extra 21. If the plan was always, let's just say, Carolina, they can take him off on that Wednesday. He's been working out and on the sideline, and they can integrate him into some reps that week. And if they feel he's still not ready, you can wait till KC, and obviously maybe not against Mahomes might not be the best intro. Maybe it's the following week. So I think that they have a lot more flexibility, but they can certainly activate him and play him on Carolina week, whether they've started the window and they're the start of the window or toward the end. But starting it on the Wednesday of the Panthers game gives them 21 days in case he comes back and he's like, wow, he really doesn't know the defense. He's not integrating at all in team snaps. He's not there physically, whatever the issue may be. They have a full 21 at that point. But I'd love to see him get some reps against Carolina, even if it's 10 to 15, to see what he can do against like someone, I don't know if Jalen Coker is coming back anytime soon. I know he's on IR, but against someone like that or Xavier Legette, whatever it may be, maybe keep him off of McMillan for now, but whoever they may play as their corner or their receiver too, I'd like to see.
So the Dorian Strong news is kind of concerning too, right? I haven't heard any update or whatnot, but Like last thing Bean said that I remember is that he's not ruling out anything of severity based off of his neck injury. So I don't know, man. I mean, I really hope that like he didn't suffer a career ending like type injury, but and so I think it's pretty safe to say that's the last we see of Strong this year.
Yeah, especially with the anonymity surrounding it, right? You just you don't know. And now that the questions continue to unfold in the secondary, and what else is new? I mean, this just is a revolving door in Buffalo, and that's why you're hoping the Maxwell Harrison return. You know, you're waiting on it. You're waiting for the full health. I think one of the reasons you're waiting for that is because you don't want to trot him out there and then have the and I know it doesn't matter, but in a bit of a way it does. I mean, it always does. You can't avoid the public pressure. And when you do have a bust on your hands that you had to move off of at the same position, you don't want to trot out a half healthy first round draft pick at the same position. So that to me is where a lot of these cards lie. What's Maxwell Harrison going to be? And is that probably the main reason why we're waiting for maximum health here, as opposed to maybe giving him limited reps in a game where he'd probably benefit from it against a team that's not nearly as potent as some of the other teams the Bills are going to be playing down the stretch. It's one of the more interesting subplots of the Buffalo Bills right now.
If that was Benford, he'd be off the list already. Let's call it what it is. Like he'd be in the lineup. All right. So to your point, you're 100% correct. There is some public perception of how they can handle. They cannot have him go in there against Mahomes and get torched. They cannot have it. So that's why probably it's the game after. It's the game after KC, just out of principle. I hate to say it that way, even though I'd love to see him get 20 reps against Xavier Worthy. That's why they drafted him. Not just Worthy, but I'd love to see him take reps. That is who he's supposed to be. That style of receiver is who he's supposed to be able to cover. So we want to see that. The Bills may disagree and say, we're not going to show you that. But he does need to get meaningful reps because luckily they avoided serious injury. And I think even was it Thigh Doctor I was talking with earlier, he thinks week 11. So I think that could make sense on the way that everything falls in line. But will that prevent the Bills from doing anything at the deadline, though? They can't go and get a real corner and think they're going to play Harrison this year. There's not going to be room. So it's interesting. The whole thing
that would line him up. That would line him up for maybe a debut against Emeka Egbuka with a healthy Mike Evans back around that time. So
I would be very intrigued with that matchup.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we do have the trade deadline coming up. You know, some people are like, nah, we need a wide receiver that can get separation all the damn time. Some people are saying a CB2, right? My question is, do we make a move at all at the trade deadline? History suggests we will. Thoughts, and who would you target and who would you like to bring in? I thought Greg Newsome was interesting, but unfortunately, as of last night, they had a very lateral trade to me. Right?
It's a weird trade. How can you do corner? And this goes for Zbot or you. How can they trade for corner right now, knowing that Harrison, I know Strong's hurt. Okay. Yeah. But how can you do it knowing that whether it's the KC game, which I don't think is going to happen, the Dolphins game, maybe I think 1 week prior than Thigh Doctor thinks, was what I think. I think that's a great time to debut him is in that Dolphins game without Tyreek Hill, or the Bucs game. Either way, how knowing you need him to take those snaps, if you go and trade for a guy, that noise that Zbot just talking about is not good. That's just as bad as playing him this week against the Falcons and him stinking. It's you went and traded for a dude that's either medium or higher level that is going to play all the snaps away from Harrison. That's tough. So I guess we can start with cornerback and what you guys think on corner, but that's tough for me to assume they're going to go get a corner.
So you know who I would like? And granted, this is just with Taylor Rapp and stuff. Say that like he continues to kind of plays. I would love Xavier Woods from Tennessee.
Do you think McDermott benches his safety?
No, but like it's what I want, right? Yeah, like something like that. I feel like would be interesting. And so an Xavier Woods, Grant Delpit from Cleveland. I thought that Cleveland was probably going to try and like hold like that defense together, at least, since it was such a top unit, and they'd hope that maybe Gabriel can turn into something. But I think that was the first domino to fall of a fire sale from that team coming up. But I'd be interested in Xavier Woods. I'd be interested in Delpit from Cleveland.
Do either of you think they go DB?
I feel like that's the best move, right?
Yeah, because I'm rolling out wide receiver completely. I just think it's a total necessity.
No. Like, so I was playing around right on FTN as well. And like as far as like separation when targeted and stuff along those lines, like our guys aren't that bad. And they're not
It's
that
really
bad
not
at
that
all.
Yeah,
Like when it came into just wide receivers when targeted, like 2 to 5 yards of separation, like Shakir's like top 3. And like Palmer, surprisingly enough, although he's had limited snaps, is like in the top 15. And like they are above some of the guys that like we want, like we've heard names like Olave and Shaheed and stuff like that, but like they're below both of those players. So like how bad is separation really? So yeah,
I mean, you would think that they're throwing the ball like it was the AFL days right now. I mean, they are a top 10 overall passing offense, and you brought this awesome website to my attention, FTN. They're number one in
sign
passing.
Up for it, man.
Yeah,
Dude, I'm addicted.
I've been looking for my wallet this whole time while
Thanks,
you guys are talking. Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
But they're number one in DVOA there, and then not to mention this is maybe the best running football team in the NFL. So I just don't get this outcry for a wide receiver. Who the hell are they bringing in right now that's going to have you say, oh, look out, the Bills Super Bowl odds that are already plus 230, which is about plus 200 better than anybody else right now. It's going to propel them to the minuses here. I just don't see it. Yeah, I'm out on that.
Yeah.
Olave's separation stinks anyways. I posted charts. I posted whatever you want to see. I know his separation's been good in the past, but we cannot keep trading like Kelvin Benjamin. That's a long time ago. Or even Cooper for players that have been good in the past. And Olave's younger than them. He's also one hit away from being done in football to a style. So I don't think we can trade premium assets for it. For that player. And his separation's not good this year. Even if you think he's going to progress to the mean coming to Buffalo, just because you have Josh Allen doesn't necessarily mean you progress past the mean of receiver. It's a tough position for me, guys.
Real quick, I just got to add, because you mentioned Calvin Benjamin. He doesn't come up often. Hilarious. Less than an hour ago, I was in the kitchen with my wife. There just so happened to be Popeye's biscuits on the counter. And I explained to her the lore behind Calvin Benjamin and the Popeye's biscuit. So that's funny you brought him up.
He can't go over 3 at receiver, guys. I don't know.
Yeah. And secondary is top 10 with DVOA, by the way, too. So it's not as bad as it is either. If they make any move at wide receiver, it's going to be activating Gabe Davis.
Yeah, that's the other thing,
even
too.
If they do it. And like that's if like they ship off Curtis Samuel and they just want to bring
back trade a receiver. That's my opinion. I think they go like I'm taking the other end of that out.
It's not in, it's out.
I'm taking the other end of that bet.
And then going ahead and like elevate Gabe Davis, who, I mean, dude, like he is great at run blocking, quality run blocking.
And he's good off script. And that's what Josh Allen looks for in receivers. Who is the best? Diggs, see it with May. We talked about that for 2 straight episodes. But Davis isn't a good route runner. We talk about that all the time. He is amazing off script. That's why he's on this roster. He is amazing in those scramble drills. No one else has really been, besides Diggs, has been really great. John Brown was decent, so was Beasley. No one has really been great at it. And that's the problem with these receivers. Do we know Chris Olave trading an asset is going to be good off script? I don't think we can assume that.
So he's a concussion away from retirement too.
He is. Like Tua.
So like we talk about injury prone, like he's injury prone.
It's him and Tua, like literally on that level of concussion. And that's sad. Like I don't want either of them to get hurt, but they are. They're like one hit away from this. And guys, we got to protect that. And so does the player. So how can the separation score has definitely been affected this year, and it's proven in the charts. It's proven in DVO. Pick your poison. He hasn't ran as good of routes. You could threaten some people with Shaheed deep, I guess. We don't run that offense, nor will we. Josh look to Shaheed more than like twice this season if they traded for him. So I don't know. I don't think it's receiver either. Linebacker is a good one. I really think linebacker, to answer your original question of this whole thing, I think they can go acquire a linebacker, not necessarily Roquan Smith style, but in that guys where you can come in and be effective day one and maybe make a play on that May play that I think should have been made by a linebacker.
Yeah. It's the real problem with this team, right? Is just make sure that you don't make it a habit of having a full football field worth of penalty yards and 3+ turnovers.
Yeah, just keep Sean Hockley. Whatever.
We just fix the team.
Pay for an all-inclusive flight for him or whatever for the family next time he's on the docket, and then I think it might be all right. And it wasn't just the Bills, by the way. We talked about this. Like it's just bad football. I never understood how the league I understand ruling out the late hits, helmet to helmet stuff. I get all that. I never understood how there hasn't been an emphasis on getting rid of the ticky-tack BS, because it's just a bad product. And that's what Sunday night was. Win or lose, Bills win that game or whatever. Were any of us going to walk away from that saying, hey, hell of a production out of the Buffalo Bills? And I mean, no, it was just bad football. And you know it's bad. I'm watching with my wife. I'm watching with my sisters-in-laws, and they're just like, this is terrible. So it's a bad product beyond the diehard fan. It's bad for entertainment. I never understood why there hasn't been an emphasis on getting rid of that. It's ridiculous.
My deep state theory was they did not want the Bills to be 3.5 games up. That is not. They don't think that'll be good.
It's the deep state.
They don't want that to be good either. It's over. It's over if the Bills win that. It's over.
100%.
So speaking of conspiracy theories as well, like you did drop something on Twitter earlier today where you said that like while we're number one in pressure percentage, we've only had one holding call called again.
That's in our favor. I need that argued the other side of that coin, how that's not correct. Like I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't think what I wear changes the result of a football game. I don't think
so I'm burning that rivalries jersey, I'll tell you that.
No, that can get burned.
I'm burning that rivalries jersey.
How are you -11 in holdings?
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
When you're that high in pressure rate.
Yeah.
Dominance. And we'll see it Monday night. How about that?
Well, because no one blocks them. That would be the counter. Well, because they don't get blocked. They just get through. Okay, then we're going to sit here talk about the Bills' defensive line being the best in the league then. So they just don't get held.
And being comparable and right to the 85 Bears or something.
I guess. If you want to say that, I guess.
Dude, I'll tell you what. Are y'all hyped about the stand in Buffalo? It is a polarizing topic amongst the fan base. Like some people hate it, some people love it.
I never understood anybody hating on this. Me and Rico got into this heavily. He wasn't in on the red helmet. He's not in on the whole uniform thing. Mike Florio calls it too. Mike Florio calls it the Nike-ification of the NFL. I love this stuff. It's what's great. Like you change the score bugs up. I mean, who could watch Tampa Bay, Seattle last week and not just love that? I'm sorry. Like, I don't get how you couldn't. This weekend is like that, maybe to a little lesser degree because they're not as great of uniforms, but this is still right there. I don't know how you couldn't love it. And you know what's weird? You would have thought they wore these more often. This is only the second time they've worn them since Josh Allen's been the quarterbapp, which is weird because it feels like they've worn it more, but they haven't. Because
they did under the other regimes. They used to wear it a little bit more, but now you would. Yeah, you're more of a jersey helmet guy. To me, I'm kind of more on his side, but I do appreciate good jerseys. The rivalries one's a little weird. Josh Allen, they're saying he couldn't see the numbers of his players. Do we buy that?
I buy it. Go watch the All-22. Go watch the All-22 sideline angle. You could not make, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Terrell Bernard, number 8. It looks like Keon Coleman, number 0. You can't really tell that's the number 8. I actually believe that the reflection of that silver, it's almost like that 3M chrome type deal. I believe it. I do. Because I was not that.
A lot of people are saying he couldn't see some of his receivers.
Oh, dude, I'm dropping a conspiracy TikTok right now.
Oh, that's going to do numbers, Dan. Let's go.
You got to pass me some sponsorship funds. I want some sponsorship money on that one.
Tinfoil hat Kevin Massare gave me a tip.
I am not a conspiracy guy at all, but the two that I'm having trouble with are, was he able to see his weapons? And 2, I'm having a trouble with this holding differential. I'm having a big analytical problem. Look at the chart. It's off. I need that to progress to the mean and quickly, or I'm not going to be happy pretty soon with the way the chart is. That is not an acceptable chart. 12-1.
Oh my God.
Don't buy it.
Well, guys, I'm going to tell you what, we're going to be obviously talking about the Bills Falcons game on Monday. Right during that episode as well. So again, guys, if you are watching on the Bills Roundtable, do us a favor, subscribe, like the video. If you are watching on my channel, do me a favor and go subscribe to the Bills Roundtable, pinned to the top of the live chat as we speak. The show is exclusively going to be over there during the Bills and the Panthers week after the bye. And we would love for you to join us, right? Like we're live Monday through Thursday, and we have a good time over here. Right before we let them go, let's give a little final score prediction action, like what we're feeling. And then on Monday, we'll start diving into some more specifics. We'll have like more to talk about once injury reports are finalized, etc. Z-Bot.
Yeah, I think the Bills get back to 30 points here, especially with the dome factor coming off of a game where they didn't score 30, which feels like, finding a diamond in the rough anymore. That's what this team's become. So they touch down on 30 again. This feels like a higher scoring game to me. I do think that Atlanta will be able to put up some points, but not anything to the point that I think rivals what Buffalo is going to do in this game. I think this looks like a 34-23 victory for Buffalo.
Ooh, I like that. I have a 38-17.
I like that.
I really think, based off of how this offense operates out in Atlanta, I think that their only hope is, long, sustained drives. I think that's going to chew up a lot of clock. That's going to ruin a lot of opportunities for them. I think the Buffalo Bills offense scores fast and very fast, almost on each and every single drive. I think that this is going to be a game where Josh is well into the 120 plus. As far as QBR, passer rating, whatever. And it's going to be a get right game. I can guarantee you that a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans are probably feeling sick to their stomach knowing that we're coming off of a very frustrating loss like last week, because I do think motivation is a thing here. Man, I see an old fashioned belt to ass on Monday. Kev.
31-20 is the number that stuck out to me. I'm sticking with it. One thing to remember, Josh Allen, 8-1 in a dome, 69% completion percentage, 12 rushing touchdowns inside the dome. He plays only 10 games. That's 1.2 touchdowns rushing a game. Take the anytime touchdown from Josh Allen. 1.2 per. He just has his footing. It matters. It definitely matters as you see some of these fields like Miami where people are losing their footing, even Buffalo occasionally based on the weather. But where they play inside of a dome, for some reason, he's locked in when the dome is closed. The retractable roofs, numbers are a little different, but 9 yards an attempt throwing the ball with 110 quarterback rating inside of domes. Do they consider, is Houston a full dome or is that retractable?
It's retractable, I believe.
So, okay, that makes sense because those numbers would be baked into the retractable section. But
well,
9-1 in a dome, guys. I don't know what to say.
And think about last
31
year.
touchdowns, 3 touchdowns a game inside a dome.
And so that 2-week stretch in the dome last
that
year.
Game too. Yeah. He was playing with a broken hand right during that stretch as well. Something I think we often forget.
What do they consider LA? You were just there, Z-Bot.
That's a total dome. Total dome. It's see-through, but total dome.
Okay. That would make sense. Those numbers are in there then. Detroit.
I mean, the outside of it, it's open concourse on the exterior when you walk in, but it's completely covered.
Okay. So total dome then. Yeah. I mean, his numbers are silly inside of a dome. It's the get right arena. I hope I'm not misproven, but I'm only going off of his data. I'm not going off of my personal opinion. I'm going off of what he's done to date. Everything's in line. That 9 yards an attempt and the 12 rushing touchdowns. That's not random. That is how well he plays in total controlled environment.
How about this, by the way? Dan Fates tweeted this out earlier as we're on the topic. Josh Allen has 2 stadiums in the NFL he hasn't played in, and he said it was a bucket list thing as a kid to visit all 32 stadiums. Atlanta's one of the 2 he visited Monday. The second, Levi Stadium in San Francisco, which hosts Bowl 60 this year.
The last game of this year, huh?
How about that?
Josh has never played in San Fran?
I guess not.
Dude,
it's not. Huh?
Never
so been here.
Never in Levi, man. You know what?
Atlanta came here last time, right, in that rain game back with Matt Ryan 4 years ago.
Yeah, snowy out. They dominated Atlanta.
Right. And then we went to New Orleans that year. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. He's never played there. He's going to like it. It is a good style of football for Josh Allen. The numbers prove it. I mean, as long as he shows up, I think he's going to have those throwbacks. Those are very vintage jerseys. He's not going to have those reflection issues. We'll see. Those all whites are beautiful too. Back to Z-Bot's point.
People are saying in the comments, by the way, SoFi isn't a dome. I mean, I know I had a couple drinks walking in there, but I must have been looking everywhere but the ceiling because that felt like a dome to me.
That's why I asked. I wasn't sure what they classify it as. I'm really not sure.
If they're saying that, I believe it. I guess I just was not paying attention. So
can they retract it?
Hey, you just didn't look up.
No. Well, if you look up, they got that giant ring. So that's what you're staring at, that ring scoreboard. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. So I'll take their word for it. I believe it. So
no, it's you're right. It's a fixed transition roof, translucent roof.
Yeah.
So It's not technically a dome, but it is, I think, for percentages of like where your data falls when you play there. So they don't consider it a retractable roof. I think that's
damn. Well, folks, we are excited to unpack this game further on Monday. I hope all of you enjoy NFL Sunday. I hope you guys enjoy the game this evening. Can Jackson Dart go out there, shock the world, and beat the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't know. Probably not. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We will see you next time. Peace.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.